entering its 5th day for the shooter who killed United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Officials with the NYPD say they believe they are making good progress toward identifying the suspect. Investigators continue to comb through the city for evidence and clues, releasing new pictures too.
You are listening to the Roberta Glass True Crime Report, putting the true back in true crime. From New York City, Roberta Glass is now on the record.
All right. How is everybody? So big news in the Brian Thompson United Healthcare CEO shooting. They found the suspect in a McDonald's in Altoona. It seems to be totally due to the pictures that were leaked by NYPD. There's a press conference going on. We're going to look into it in a second. Here, let me just fill you in on the news that you missed, if you missed it.
Breaking news on the search for the man who shot and killed a healthcare CEO on the streets of Manhattan last week. Two sources familiar with the matter tell News 4 investigators are following a new possible lead in that murder investigation connected to healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. A man in Altoona, Pennsylvania, is being questioned because he was found with a gun similar to the one used in the shooting. And News 4 chief investigative reporter Jonathan Dienst is on the phone with us right now with all the details that you're uncovering here. John.
Yeah, Adam, police believe this could be a major break in this case. It was a suspect, a man who was seen in a McDonald's, and employees and patrons at that McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, were concerned that the man resembled the suspect wanted in the New York shooting, so they called police. Police arrived, picked him up, brought him to the local police station in the Altoona, Pennsylvania area, and under questioning, they found he had a fake ID and a weapon that appears similar to the one used in the killing of the CEO.
Which is crazy. So that means that he didn't drop that weapon. And now they're saying that it is a veterinarian type weapon used. That was something that was brought out, that this could be a veterinarian weapon. And then it was kind of many people debunked it and said, no, it's this special kind of weapon. It's very unusual, but it's not veterinarian. But it apparently, also, we had been hearing reports that this guy came from the Atlanta to Washington, D.C. area. What is he doing in Altoona? Is he from Altoona, or did he escape to Altoona? We don't know. All these questions, maybe some of them will be answered in the press conference I'm going to switch to in a second, but let's just get the basics before we go to that.
Now, you'll recall the person who checked into the hostel here in New York also used a fake ID, a fake New Jersey ID, and investigators are looking to see if that is in fact the same ID that was used during that check-in at the hostel in New York. So they are not calling him the suspect at this time, but there is optimism, there is hope that this is a major break in the search for a suspect in the shooting of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson last week. He was shot at point blank range in front of a Midtown hotel, and there has been a manhunt ongoing for days. And now a man is in custody being questioned in Altoona, Pennsylvania. And we are told that investigators are looking to see if he had arrived recently on a bus that had come from Philadelphia. That is not yet confirmed, but that is one angle that they are looking into, whether the man who's being questioned at this hour had just arrived in the Altoona area off of a bus from Philadelphia. As we all know, earlier in the week, PD had said they were concerned this suspect had left New York City on a bus from the bus terminal up near the George Washington Bridge and had left to go out of state. So the question is, did he take a bus from New York to Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, and then perhaps take another bus out towards the Altoona area? That is all being looked into, and that is, of course, if the man who is in custody in Pennsylvania is one and the same, and that this is not just some sort of coincidence. But right now, investigators from the NYPD are en route to Altoona, Pennsylvania. The FBI has been alerted, as have other agencies, and the investigation very much ongoing. But again, a man spotted in a McDonald's in the Altoona, Pennsylvania area.
So, I mean, it's really as much police work, good old-fashioned police work, and the people of this country that found him. Pretty amazing. No, and Donna S. has said some interesting things here. She says the shooter's alleged X account is strange. I checked it twice, 10 minutes apart, and a lot of tweets were deleted in that time. Interesting. Wonder if they're being taken into evidence, like it's being curated. X account shows he was a Penn student. So he went to school in Pennsylvania. Is there a school in Altoona? I mean, U of Penn, or is there a college there in Pennsylvania? University? Let me know. Or is Altoona just, I'm going to go to Altoona, just a strange, out of the way place. So let's watch the NYC Mayor Adams just gave a press conference, says this is the guy. So let's tune into that, shall we?
Good afternoon, and I'm joined here today by our Chief of Detectives and the Police Commissioner and Chief of Department because we have a strong person of interest in the shooting that shook our city last week. CEO Brian Thompson of United Healthcare was the victim of a senseless act of violence. Our officers have been working around the clock. Many of them did not go home to pursue this individual. It was crucial that we were able to remove him off the streets of America, and we were going to seek him out no matter where he was at the time. And so this is a strong person of interest. The police commissioner and
they say he also has a manifesto. Pretty interesting.
The chief of detectives will go over where we are right now in the investigation. He matches the description of the identification we've been looking for. He's also in possession of several items that we believe will connect him to this incident. How did we do it? Good old-fashioned police work. The chief of detectives and the police commissioner made the decision to release as much of a photo that we had at the time. We sent it across the country, and someone, a McDonald's employee, did something we ask every American to do. If you see something, say something, but most importantly, do something. And they did. And because of that, we believe we have a strong person of interest to deal with this case. I want to now turn it over to the police commissioner of the city of New York, Commissioner Tisch.
Okay. And here's his, thanks so much, Deb. This is the Luigi Mangione. I'm sure Mangione, my ability to mess up a name is unparalleled. He says he's an MSE and BSE in computer science at University of Pennsylvania, which is Ivy League, if that's where at Penn or Penn State. I don't know. Penn State or Penn, what does he mean? Penn State or University of Penn? 7 years ago, I gave my high school senior speech on this topic. Today, I will be talking to you about the future, about topics ranging from conscious artificial intelligence to human immortality. Likely you'll dismiss all of this pretty quickly as interesting, but just science fiction. I don't know if the future is going to be a utopia or a dystopia, but it's unlikely to be anything in between. So can this trash be illegal? I used to be bummed in math class when learning theorems. All the low-hanging fruit has been solved before I was born. If I was alive of the time of Pythagoras, I could have easily derived the Pythagorean theorem. So it looks like he wants notoriety a little bit from this. He's boo-hooing that he wasn't born earlier and could have made a mathematic theory earlier. All the theories have been taken or solved or created. Being smart makes you prone to confirmation bias. In retrospect, it shouldn't have been surprising. Anyway, you guys can check this out a little bit more. I mean, it would look like, as we always say, they always look so normal. Men and women have been convinced that they were adversaries. This isn't the case. These are things he's retweeting. Just gives you a little idea. Just seems like any other college student, no? Back to the press conference.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, everyone. Earlier this morning in Altoona, Pennsylvania, members of the Altoona Police Department arrested Luigi Mangione, a 26-year-old male on firearms charges. At this time, he is believed to be our person of interest in the brazen targeted murder of Brian Thompson, CEO of United.
So when they give these press conferences, they're pretty sure that they have the guy. Watching the whack job says Luigi Mangione is originally from Townsend, Maryland. That's interesting. That could. And is an anti-capitalist former Ivy League student, according to the New York Post. He has ties to San Francisco and lives in Honolulu, Hawaii. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Healthcare last Wednesday in Midtown Manhattan. The suspect was in a McDonald's and was recognized by an employee who then called local police. Responding officers questioned the suspect, who was acting suspiciously and was carrying multiple fraudulent IDs as well as a U.S. passport. Upon further investigation, officers recovered a firearm on his person as well as a suppressor, both consistent with the weapon used in the murder. They also recovered clothing, including a mask consistent with those worn by our wanted individual. Also recovered was a fraudulent New Jersey ID, matching the ID our suspect used to check into his New York City hostel before the shooting incident. Additionally, officers...
There you go. There you go. That's going to be really important at trial. This is what I've been worried about. Is not just the capture, but how are they going to try this guy if he had been smart enough to ditch the gun? And my boyfriend would say, like, why did he ditch the gun? Why didn't he ditch the gun? I'm like, well, they're expensive. They're expensive. I don't know why he didn't ditch the gun. But, I mean, to be caught with the gun and the ID, good luck being tried. Good point that he may have had a hit list. This is some part of some anti-capitalist.
Chat room, give someone credit.
Recovered a handwritten document that speaks to both his motivation and mindset. NYPD detectives are en route to Pennsylvania as we seek to interview the subject further. This apprehension is thanks to the tireless work of the greatest detectives in the world, and of course, the strong relationships we have with our local law enforcement partners. On every level, local, state, and federal, we all serve the same public safety mission. And this case, which captured the attention of an entire nation, is another example of how connected we are and how important it is to work together, share information, and pursue every lead. For just over 5 days, our NYPD investigators combed through thousands of hours of video, followed up on hundreds of tips, and processed every bit of forensic evidence, DNA, fingerprints, IP addresses, and so much more to tighten the net. We deployed drones, canine units.
Right. Where that DNA is going to be important is if they test his DNA and it matches the DNA found at the scene, then that's going to be important in trying him. But for finding him, not too helpful. It was just really good old-fashioned police work and the people of this country that solved this crime. And I was concerned, I think other people had to be concerned as well, when you have such a public support for this shooter that people wouldn't call him in. Not so. So we still have some morality in this country. Thank heavens. You know, some people were saying in the chat, in the comments from yesterday's episode, how did I miss the central part of the story is that our healthcare is so bad and that people feel justified and angry about it. But this is not the way to do it. It's not the way to ruin children's lives and his life. This is not the way that you change things. This country, I understand the justifiable anger. It's okay to be angry, but this is something else. Killing someone is never okay.
And scuba divers. We leveraged the domain awareness system, Argus cameras, and conducted aviation canvasses. And our detectives also went door to door, interviewing potential witnesses and doing the good old-fashioned police work that our investigators are famous for. This combination of old school detective work and new age technology is what led to this result today. And we must also acknowledge the instrumental role the media and the public played in this case. The images that we shared with the public were spread far and wide, and the tips we received led to the recovery of crucial evidence. We should never underestimate the power of the public to be our eyes and our ears in these investigations. This is the third time in 3 weeks that a member of the public has seen something and said something and done something that led to a high-profile arrest. The triple stabbing homicide in Manhattan, the gunpoint robberies in Queens during which an NYPD officer was shot, and now this. Now, the case will continue through the criminal justice process. And while we are proud of today's accomplishment, we must, of course, remember that a family is in mourning. I want to again extend my sympathies to Brian's family, his co-workers, and all who knew him. Finally, I want to thank the women and men of the NYPD, especially our Detective Bureau personnel, with a strong assist from our intelligence analysts. We also thank the SAC of the
So as of this morning, there were live feeds of Central Park, of divers in Central Park looking for this weapon. So hopefully they're out of the cold water of the lake in Central Park now that it's been recovered with this guy's belongings in a McDonald's in Altoona. Who could have guessed? There was also reports that the police was on their way and the FBI were on their way to Atlanta because that's where the bus that he took originated from. He could have picked it up anywhere on the route from Atlanta to Washington, D.C. Sounds like he's from around the Maryland area. So probably picked it up a little bit later on into the ride. So this is just all kind of amazing turn of events, I think.
FBI's Criminal Investigative Division, Leslie Rodriguez-Bekshies. And I want to commend the staff of the Manhattan DA's office and especially DA Alvin Bragg. He has been working with us 24/7 on this case, and I'm incredibly grateful for his partnership. I'll now pass it along to our great Chief of Detectives, Joe Kenny, who will provide additional information. Chief.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good afternoon. As the Commissioner stated earlier, a male was taken into custody today in Altoona, Pennsylvania this morning. He has been identified as Luigi Nicholas Mangione. He's a male, 26 years old. He was born and raised in Maryland. We know he has ties to San Francisco, California, and his last known address was Honolulu, Hawaii. He has no prior arrest history in New York. Members of the NYPD Detective Bureau are currently traveling to Pennsylvania with members of the Manhattan District Attorney's Office to interview this subject. This case was brought to a successful conclusion based on the coordinated effort between numerous NYPD units, including the Intelligence and Counterterrorism Bureau, our federal partners at the FBI, the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, and of course, members of the Altoona Police Department in Pennsylvania. On Thursday, one day after this crime was committed, the NYPD released a photo of the shooter in this case. This picture was obtained by the NYPD during one of their extensive video canvasses. We took that photograph and we asked for the public's help in identifying this subject, and the public responded. Hundreds of tips began to pour into our hotline. Each tip was investigated thoroughly, and we began to release additional photographs as they came into our possession. The NYPD provided these photos to numerous media outlets. Local, national, and international outlets released the photo via television, print, social media, and online content. Luckily, a citizen in Pennsylvania recognized our subject and called local law enforcement. Members of the Altoona Police Department responded to the call, and based on their investigation, they notified the NYPD. This investigation is still active and ongoing. Thank you very much.
I had a couple questions about the document that he was found in possession with. Can you go a little bit more in depth about those motivations that you mentioned? Was that CEO specifically named in that document? Was there anything more about him wanting to go after others? And also in that document, was there any indication that explains us how the level of detail that he went into killing him? Like, is there anything?
Like I said, that document is currently in the possession of the Altoona Police Department as part of their investigation. But just from briefly speaking with them, we don't think that there's any specific threats to other people mentioned in that document. But it does seem that he has some ill will toward corporate America.
Over here, sir.
MJ?
Chief, was the suspect wearing a mask at the time he was spotted in the...
So I was totally wrong. I thought it was something personal that had happened. Everybody that I knew that I talked about it with said the same thing. Like, oh, something must have happened to him or his family member with United Healthcare, but apparently not. Apparently this is just his hatred of our capitalist system, which of course is not perfect, but it's always interesting why these people stay in America and they're not in Cuba or somewhere else.
McDonald's. And also, criminal cases often have a linchpin. Can you point to a single linchpin that helped crack this case?
There's numerous linchpins in this case, in the fact that we've recovered an enormous amount of forensic evidence, an enormous amount of video, and once again, with your help and the public's help. So I really couldn't put it on one thing, but if I had to, it would be the release of that photograph from the media.
You said he had a passport on him. Do you believe he was trying to flee the country? And also, are you still looking for any evidence in Central Park with regards to the bike?
We had divers in the water yesterday that came up negative results. The passport, we don't believe that he was planning on doing any traveling at this time. We don't think at this point in our investigation, we don't think he was trying to flee the country.
The person at the McDonald's, were they buying food? What were they doing at that exact moment?
He was an employee at the McDonald's.
Right. But what was the suspect doing?
He was sitting there eating.
Will the suspect be brought back to New York and charged here, and when?
We're going to have to work that out with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office in Altoona, Pennsylvania. He's going to be facing gun charges there. And at some point, we'll work out through extradition to bring him back to New York to face charges here, working with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office.
Hi, Anita from the New York Post. I was just hoping to get more details on the capture itself. Did he put up a fight? Did he say anything to cops? And we've also reported that he published online anti-health care industry rantings. Can you share with us some of the services that he posted on?
We're still working through his social media. We're going to do a complete scrub of that. Preliminarily, like I said, he seems that he has some ill will toward corporate America, but that will all come out as part of our investigation. We're not done here. We're still going to be putting this together. We're still going to be working very hard to bring this to a successful conclusion.
The capture itself, did he put up a fight? Did he say anything to police?
I don't have that information.
Can you elaborate on how he got there, the path he took from Port Authority and on the George Washington Bridge to Altoona, PA? Same
thing. This just happened this morning. We'll be working, backtracking his steps from.
Wow. So this has just happened, but they have to feel pretty sure that they got the guy. Certainly the ID, there can be many different weapons that are the same, but you can't fake that fake ID that he has from New Jersey that he used to check into the hostel. And that's where he made his big mistake. He had to make a calculated risk of either looking really suspect and keeping his mask up when the person behind the counter woman started flirting with him and said, "Let me see your smile." And he did. And that's when that picture was taken, which is the best picture of his face. But that's the ID. I think the ID, the weapon, if they match DNA, is all going to be crucial in trying this case. A very interesting case to be tried in New York City. It's about time we had a really good case. By the way, speaking of good cases, Daniel Penni was found not guilty. Shockingly, they had dropped the biggest charge in that case. And it looked like that the prosecutor was really gunning for them all to agree on a lower charge, but instead they acquitted him totally. So very mixed feelings in New York City today about that case. Certainly there's been protests outside the courthouse, bringing race into the case. And after the acquittal, saying Daniel Penni's father said that our system is rigged.
New York to Altoona, Pennsylvania.
I was going to ask if we knew anything, if he took a bus to Philadelphia first and then somehow got to Altoona. But
We're still working on that. We're still working through that.
Is there any indication that anybody else was helping him from the inside?
Brooke, interesting. He made it. You guys are helping me out with this report. I didn't hear that. Thanks so much. He made the weapon, says Brooke. Thanks. Interesting. Thanks so much.
As far as tracking the CEO's movements.
Once again, we're still working this investigation very hard. It's not at its conclusion yet. That could come out during our investigation, but as of right now, we have no indication that took place.
Chief, did he have any weapons or anything like that with him when he was arrested?
He was in possession of a ghost gun that had the capability of firing a 9mm round and a suppressor.
A ghost gun? Is that what that means when you make a gun? Is that the meaning of that? I don't know. I don't know anything about weapons. Ms. The Bow says, haha, I love that an anti-capitalist buys his coffee. Well, it wasn't buying coffee. He was buying energy bars and some other kind of drink, I think, at Starbucks, and eats at McDonald's. What a fraud, right? Reminds me, you guys seen the movie Ninochka with Greta Garbo? She, the hat brings her down, so she's a staunch communist until she sees this hat in the window. And that's what brings her down, her love of the hat. It's just like these very human things that run in opposition to your communist beliefs. Coveting it, something as simple as coveting a hat or being hungry and liking a certain type of food.
Can you get into a little bit about the technical aspects of the investigation? I know you deployed an unprecedented amount of technology. You also activated the Sentry program through Intel. Can you talk about how that is going to play into actually building the case as far as cell phone and all of the other technical aspects of what you've done?
In this case, it really came down to technology was the use of drones in Central Park, and really comes down to the video canvas that we did. We used every source of video that we could collect, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours from hundreds of sources, and that helped bring this to where we are right now.
That's interesting, because I was talking to my friend in England, and she was shocked that we don't have cameras in our subways, cameras everywhere. We don't. We're way behind London in that aspect. So we seems like we have more cameras than we know. But they were able to solve this with drone footage. Interesting. Maui Swift says, Ghost gun is a privately made gun. Interesting. Thank you. Everyone's guessing that might be 3D printed.
The gun is it believed to be the gun used in the shooting? And there was some talk that it was a veterinarian type gun. Is that accurate?
No, as of right now, the information we're getting from Altoona is that the gun appears to be a ghost gun, may have been made on a 3D printer. The capability of firing a 9mm round, obviously that will come out during our ballistics testing.
Oliver?
Yeah, Oliver Barnes from the Financial Times. Do you have
There you go, made with a 3D printer.
any indication like how long this handwritten, is it a handwritten manifesto that you found on the suspect? And then also whether or not he put it online at all?
Don't know if it's online. As of right now, it's a handwritten 3-page document.
Chief, does he have ties to that area, and was he someone who you knew by name before his arrest?
We believe he may have attended college in Pennsylvania, but like I said earlier, he has ties to Maryland and California and Hawaii.
You knew him by name before today. Was his name on your radar?
Excuse me?
Was his name on your radar? Was he someone who you had been looking into before his arrest?
No, we did not have his name prior to today.
Does he have any prior arrests? I know there were none for New York City, but is there any prior arrests anywhere else in the country?
We have not come across any arrests in the country.
Wow. And here, thanks, Maestro. Here is his Goodreads page found by Maestro, my wonderful moderator. Thank you so much for moderating the chat. Luigi Mangione, same picture as his Mangione. Same picture as his ex account. America is the wealthiest nation on earth, but its people are mainly poor, and poor Americans are urged to hate themselves. To quote the American humorist Kin Hubbard, it ain't no disgrace to be poor, but it might as well be. It is, in fact, a crime for an American to be poor. So Life and the Lindy Effect, and this is on another book. He's liking just different quotes. He wants to read Atlas Shrugged, the famous libertarian, loved by libertarian book. Odd. American Prometheus, The Triumph and Tragedy of J. Robert Oppenheimer. So Infinite Jest. I hated that book. I can't say I hated it because I gave up on it, but I found it awful, terribly written, but that's just me. It's so lauded as great. The Great Conversation, Volume 1, Pre-Socrates through Descartes. One Final Hour, A Scientist's Warning, How Terror and Error and Environmental Disasters Threaten Humankind's Future in this Century. Industrial Society in the Future. So you see a pattern here. But a lot of quotes here. Interesting. So he put up a lot of these quotes. I didn't even know you could do this in Goodreads. Did he write? He wrote 13 reviews. Let's see his reviews. Clearly written by a mathematics prodigy. We heard him opine on X that he was born too late to be a mathematics prodigy. Reads like a series of lemmas on the question of 21st century quality of life. You guys see a pattern? A gram is always better than a damn. Interesting. Back to the press conference.
Chief, hi. How are you? On two things. On the ghost gun, is it something you're going to be looking into to see if he made it himself? Can he make that himself? Or is that, would he have to buy the gun the way it was?
No, once again, that'll be part of our investigation as we follow up.
I mean, obviously he's going to face murder charges, but is there any chance that he could face any other charges because he was targeting the CEO and because of his writings and other things that we're now finding on him? Is that federal charges or
that determination will be made by Alvin Bragg.
Yes, what connections does he have in Pennsylvania that you know of, and are they in Altoona specifically?
We believe he attended college in Pennsylvania.
Does he know anybody in Pennsylvania?
Wouldn't be able to tell you that.
All right, we're going to take one more question from shooting Marla, and then we're going to go. You talk about the manifesto having said things against corporations, but specifically United Healthcare, and do you believe that Mangione acted alone?
We believe at this point.
Yeah, really good question about the reward money. There's $60,000, $10,000 in NYPD money offered, and $50,000 in money offered by the FBI. So who's going to get that? They said both the people dining at McDonald's called them in and the workers there. So how are they going to, who's going to get it? Very interesting. Brooke says he was valedictorian. Thanks, Brooke. So helpful. Maestro says New York Post are describing him as a tech whiz. Luigi Mangione. Interesting. So what his beef was with CEOs, with capitalism, with, I think it was the high salary that he made at United Healthcare, which was reported at 10 million. And that's including, that's just not his, it's including everything, his stocks and everything. So heard on STS, Debbie Gibby says 50 grand after conviction. They only get it after the conviction, and the employees at McDonald's will get it. Whoever called it in first, I guess. Interesting. They don't get it till after conviction. That seems unfair. That seems unfair. It's like leading to the arrest. They don't know. What if the prosecutor's terrible? Certainly Alvin Bragg does not have the most stellar. Is this going to be a federally prosecuted? Hopefully it's going to be federally prosecuted, you would think, right? I don't know.
Our investigation is leaning toward he was acting alone. So like I stated earlier, we're still working through the investigation. We're not stopping today. And as far as the manifesto, like I said, I don't have the complete details of that. It's in the possession of the Altoona Police Department.
We're going to shift to
Good job, Chief. Commissioner, Chief Manager. Again, great job by the New York City Police Department. Certain aspects of this investigation and the crime itself is something that we have been zeroing in on. Ghost guns. We have really talked about this since the beginning of the administration. They could be made on a 3D printer, and they are extremely dangerous, and we must do more on the federal level to clamp down on the availability of ghost guns. And it just really leads into just
Does anybody else think that that's just a fool's errand, trying to clap down on this? I mean, does anybody know why we're so violent here in America? It doesn't seem like supply is the issue. It seems like violence is the issue here. Why we're so violent? We have all these laws, and it doesn't seem to help. These gun laws in New York City.
Headers of what we did last week and what we're doing this week. This week is all about public safety. Public safety, I've stated over and over again, is a prerequisite to our prosperity, and we're going to continue to make this city a safe city. It's the safest big city in America, but anytime you have a crime of this magnitude, it shocks us, and it really has a major impact on the perception of crime in this city. This crime has continued to go down. We're going to continue to do what's needed. Today, we announced an every block count initiative, and the blocks that we identified since October, they have not had one shooting or one shots fired job that came over. We're going to add that on to our community link.
So this is Mayor Adams doing a little publicity for himself. Say all the things that he's going to do now. You can see people leaving, reporters leaving. Let's just kind of go forward and see what else he talked about here. But this is, as you know, he's under fraud charges, has fraud charges against him for taking money from Turkey. He's insisting on not stepping down and going forward. So this is an important turn of events for him to capitalize on as a politician, and he certainly is capitalizing on it. So in the chat, people are, to answer my question, ghost guns are not the problem. I would agree as a firearm owner. Says Kitties, 1993. Debbie Gibby says lack of brains and morals. No, they don't exist anymore. Shortage of that, unfortunately. Maestro says, I think it's deeply ingrained in the culture from the Wild West times. Yeah, we got a crazy problem in modern society. Sure do.
And we need help in Albany and in the city council. We can't sit back.
All right.
And
this is just like boring, boring, just the regular boring fare from our mayor. So pretty interesting. So if you're just tuning in, it seems like they've caught a suspect. And it seems very highly likely that it is the shooter of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, who was shot and killed December 4th in front of the Hilton Hotel, where he was about to give a address to shareholders. And this former college student activist Hold on, let me go to his page so you can see him. Luigi Mangione was the one caught. And he also was caught with a manifesto. He was caught with the weapon that they believe used. It was a 3D printed firearm. And this appears to be the motivation was an anti-capitalist motivation. You can see the first quote on his Goodreads is America's the wealthiest nation on earth, but people are mainly poor, and poor Americans are urged to hate themselves. Another quote, I've heard people compare knowledge to knowledge of a topic to a tree. If you don't fully get it, it's like a tree in your head with no trunk and without a trunk. He's being described as a tech whiz. You're in danger of living a life so comfortable and soft that you will die without ever realizing your true potential. David Goggins, can't hurt me, master your mind and defy the odds. That's one of his quotes. Another quote, but just as a toaster used as a doorstep is still a machine designed to toast bread, whatever you choose to do with your life, hold on, are still a machine designed to propagate your genes. All of us are. It's what the priests, the sages, and the philosophers search for in vain, the ultimate explanation of our existence. He quotes Ted Kaczynski here. The concept of mental health in our society is defined largely by the extent to which an individual behaves in accord with the needs of the system and does so without showing signs of stress. Well, who could have guessed that? A guy with a manifesto quotes another guy with a manifesto. They say a healthy person has 1,000 wishes, but a sick person has only one wish to get well. Oh, that's interesting. Joe DeCina, The Spartan Way. Eat better, train better, think better, be better. I've heard people compare. Yeah, that's that one. See if it's no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. J. Krishnamurti. Know thyself, Socrates. So this is all gives you an idea. Quotes Albert Einstein. If I had an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem and 5 minutes thinking about solutions. Interesting. One believes things because one has been conditioned to believe them. Huxley, Brave New World. Gives you just an interesting... Terrence McKenna, he's quoting. Michael Pollan. So just an idea of who he is. That's what I have for today, guys. I just wanted to give you the news because I thought it was such a fascinating story and a New York City story. And I'm here in New York. So have a great day. I'm off to get my hair cut. And I'll see you tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern. Have a great day, everybody.